I got pulled over today, and the cop comes to my window and goes, license, registration, and proof of insurance. And I look at him, I say, officer, I don't have my license on me, I don't have my registration, I don't have any proof of insurance. So then the cop looks at me and goes, then why the hell were you speeding? I caught you going 90 and a 65. And I look at him and I say, officer, the reason I was speeding was because I just killed my girlfriend. I chopped her up and I put her in my trunk. So the cop backs off my window, says, listen, boy, wait right here. And he calls every cop in the area to come look at my car. So my car is now surrounded by cops, and the chief of police does a whole check. He checks my trunk, and all he finds is a backpack. So then he comes to my window. So the chief of police comes up to my window and says, listen, the officer who pulled you over said you had no driver's license, no proof of insurance, no registration, and that you just chopped up your girlfriend and put her in the trunk. But when I looked in the trunk, all I found was a backpack. I found nothing. And I look at the chief of police and I say, yeah, I know. This lying son of a bitch probably told you I'm speeding too, right?
One time when I was in 8th grade, I got a hickey on my neck because I had daddy issues, and my teacher noticed and sent me to the principal's office, and the principal was like, I'm calling your mom. And I was like, I burned my neck with a curling iron on accident. And she was like, no, you didn't. So on the bus ride home, luckily my best friend and I shared the same bus stop, and I asked her if I could go to her house really quick to burn my neck with her curling iron, and she said yes. So when I walked into the house, my mom was literally ready to beat my ass, and I was like, Mom, look, it's just a curling iron burn. And she was like, wait, yeah, that's clearly just a curling iron burn. And she got so mad, and she called the principal, and she demanded that she apologize to me. And the principal had to apologize to me. And to this day, my mom still doesn't know.
My boyfriend showed up to my house randomly one day. I had just woken up and I got ready so fast in my room. Mom told him that he could wait in the living room. She ended up jumping in the shower. I went outside to the living room and we ended up going to his house. And I was there. My mom called me. She said that there was $350 on the table and that one $50 bill was missing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but I had to find out the truth. So I told him to take me to Jack in the Box. We went through the drive-thru. I was so mad, but I had to keep it together. I knew that he only paid with 20s. He never paid with 50s. I ordered my food and I was waiting to see what bill he pulled out. And guess what, guys? It was a $50 bill. Then I looked at him and told him, don't pay with my mom's money. I grabbed my purse, pulled out a 20, and told him, pay with my money. His eyes just popped open. He knew he got caught.
This is why you should be careful doing private events as a stripper. I worked as a dancer for a few years. Most nights I worked at the club, but sometimes I did private events to make some extra money. I always took one of the bouncers that I knew from the club as my bodyguard and gave him a cut of what I made. I also only agreed to small events with a max of 10 to 15 people. One day a guy called me and booked me for a small birthday party for his brother. I explained the rules. No touching or grabbing, nothing sexual would be happening, and I only do what I'm comfortable with, to which he said he understood. I picked up my bouncer friend Tank and headed out to the event. When we arrived, we immediately noticed it was a huge party of at least 60 to 70 people, all of them being men. Tank asked me if I was still comfortable dancing for the party, and I agreed since we were already there. The group of men were really loud when I walked in, and they were extremely intoxicated, which was the first red flag. A few guys instantly started touching me, and Tank lightly pushed them away, telling them no touching and that the show hasn't started yet. While we were walking to the bathroom to change, another guy grabbed my butt. Tank pushed him off and started arguing with him. At this point, we should have left, and if I knew what was about to go down, we would have.
Story time. My parents found out that I was dating a white boy. So a little background information. My parents are super strict, especially my dad. And on top of that, my dad thought that races should not mix. One of his sayings was, you don't see a blue jay fucking a pigeon. AKA, white people and black people should not be together. Sounds fucking stupid. Yeah, I know. Anyways, like I was saying, it was my freshman year of high school and I had been dating this boy for 2 months. And of course he was white. And we had to keep it super low-key because if any of my friends found out about it, they would have fucking told my dad. Now when I look back at it, those weren't good friends at all. Anyways, every Friday, my boyfriend and I would go to the movies. And we would go to this theater that was 45 minutes away because nobody that I knew would be there. The only person that knew that I was dating a white boy was my sister. Well, the one day after the movies, I couldn't get a ride home, so I had to get a ride home with him and his family. And as soon as I pulled up, my parents were waiting outside, like for part 2.
So it's Friday night, it's Roxy's birthday weekend, and we're all going to her house for the first time ever for our group sleepover. So we get there, and honestly, everything seemed really normal at first. Roxy's house was really nice, and honestly, I was confused why she never wanted us there before. So then we start making banana bread, and all of a sudden, Laura jumps and screams and runs to the other side of the kitchen. She's like, did you guys feel that? And we're all like, what are you talking about, Laura? She's like, I swear something just touched my lower back. And Laura's face turned really pale, like she was genuinely scared, and we spend the next hour convincing her that no one was there, no one touched her back. So then we start watching a movie, Disturbia. Shout out to Shia LaBeouf. And Nina goes goes to the bathroom. And when she comes back, she's like, Roxy, it looks like something upstairs is maybe leaking because there's this massive wet stain on your bathroom wall. And Roxy's like, oh, don't worry, that stain's always there. She's like, we actually can't figure out where it's coming from. We've had plumbers come and they can't figure it out either. There's no drain or pipe or anything that could be causing a leak at that part of the house anyway. And then Roxy says, but that's why we think our house is haunted. We all look at her kind of shocked and she's like, yeah, that's why I never invited you guys to sleep over because it can get kind of creepy. But honestly, at that point, I wasn't that creeped out until we went to bed because that's when stuff started getting weird.
This is why karma has no deadline. I'm a middle school dropout and I became a depressed shut-in from the age of 14 to 20. When I was 20 years old, I got a dog who completely helped me turn my life around. I named him Sherlock, and because of him, I started going outside more to take him on walks. Then I got my GED and started going to college with the intent of giving him a better life. I was 24 and living at home with my brother and my father. Around this time, my brother got a girlfriend. A week into their relationship, Sherlock bit her ankle. It didn't break skin or do serious damage, but everything went downhill because of this. My brother and his girlfriend plotted to kill my dog and throw his body into the river. However, my brother couldn't bring himself to do it and told me everything, followed by breaking up with his girlfriend. A week later, she was kicked out from her residence and my brother ran to her rescue. After they got back together, she would call me using his phone to threaten and scare me into thinking that she would murder Sherlock. I put Sherlock in a training class to sort out his biting issues and he made major improvements. I was stressed and always kept him locked in my room while I was at work for fear of my brother getting to him. I told my brother that I was actively looking for an apartment and would be moving out soon. However, one day when I came home from work, Sherlock was gone and so was my brother.
Story time. There was this one time in the 6th grade during gym class I was telling my friend some stupid story about elementary school. After I finished talking, I realized she wasn't even fucking listening, so I turned around and looked at her and called her a bitch. Then this ugly-ass popular girl turns around and screams, "Did you just call me a bitch?" I turned to face her and I was like, I wasn't even talking to you, I'm talking to my friend. Then she gets in my face and says, "Stop lying, I know you called me that because you're jealous of me." After she put her nasty-ass smelly mouth in my face, she ran off to tell her little squad everything. After class finished, one of the girls came up to me and said, "If you're gonna talk about my friend like that, we're gonna have a problem." So I screamed back in this bitch's face and said, "I already told your friend that I wasn't even talking to her and I wasn't even facing her directions."
This is why skipping detention might be a good idea. When I was in high school, I slacked off a lot. My junior year, my math teacher was pretty upset by this. Once during a parent-teacher meeting, he told my mom that I wasn't doing as well as I could and called me lazy. My mom agreed and stated that she wouldn't blame him if he pushed and punished me to work harder. From this day on, he did exactly that, always questioning me before anyone else and always sat next to me during exercises. This is when my classmates started realizing that he was a little obsessed with me and started teasing me about it. Right before Christmas break, he threw us a surprise party with chocolates and mock champagne. He poured me an extra glass and congratulated me for doing better. I drank the first glass he gave me, but not the second because I'm diabetic and had already had too much chocolate. During the next class, I felt extremely sick and almost fainted. I spent the rest of the day in the nurse's office and chalked it up to eating too much candy. A few weeks later, I failed a math test. He became extremely angry and yelled at me in front of everyone. The look in his eyes chilled me and I cried. He gave me detention but scheduled it hours later than the usual time and said he would personally be there as well. When I showed up, it was getting dark already and I noticed I was the only student there. Something felt off and a feeling deep inside my gut was pushing me to skip. Right when I decided to skip, I look over and see him walking towards me.
Around a year ago, my husband anxiously sat me down and told me he had discovered he had a long-lost daughter. According to him, he had an ex he got pregnant as a teenager, but she moved away before she started showing and without telling him. She gave birth and kept his daughter a secret from him. Eventually, she put Kat up for adoption. Kat now tracked him down and wanted to get to know him. As I am unable to conceive on my own, I was very enthusiastic and encouraging of them meeting. I asked him about DNA testing or speaking to the mother or adoptive parents. He told me all of that would come in due time, but based on the details she shared with him, he was 90% sure she was his biological daughter. Their first few visits together were private, but eventually we had a big dinner at my house. My husband has seen Kat numerous times since then, both with and without me present. About a week ago, a young man I've never met before messaged me on Facebook. He was Kat's ex-boyfriend and he wanted me to know that this was the woman my husband had been sleeping with. He must have misunderstood Kat's relationship with my husband. When I asked my husband about it, he started crying. He thought I went through his phone and found the text messages between him and Kat. Messages when she was in character, which is how he segued into telling me that they're in a fake, incestuous daddy-daughter relationship.
So did you guys know that our typical search engines are only 4% of what we see on the web, which is like Google, Bing, Firefox? I'm going to be talking about some of the most popular websites on the dark web, so get ready because this is going to be intense. So here's a photo example just to give you guys an idea of what this looks like. At the top is the area that we do our research for school on, or stalk our exes, I don't know. And then 500 times larger than the surface web is the deep web. The deep web is filled with information that we cannot access, such as medical documents, iCloud, personal information. Like I obviously can't Google what your family history or intake forms say, so that's where this is stored. And then the dark web holds the last 6%.
This part of the internet was created by the US Navy in the 1990s, and it was made so spies could share info without being tracked. Well, then the government decided to release it to the public. And you need the specific software to go to it called Tor, which stands for the Onion Router. It hides your identity and gives you access to non-surface web pages. And on this section of the internet, you can do things like buy people's credit card information, get counterfeit money, participate in drug trafficking, hire hackers and hitmen, and way worse.
I've always had a good relationship with my mother-in-law up until I was pregnant. My husband's side of the family hasn't had a girl born in the past 100 years. So when everyone found out I was pregnant with a girl, no one believed me. Everyone was so shocked when it was announced that most of them denied it up until the moment she was born. And that's when the horrible comments started. Whenever my husband wasn't around, my mother-in-law would make snarky comments like, "I wonder where she got that nose. It's definitely not my son's." I never told him and let everything slide because she's older and she's my mother-in-law. But when I was pregnant with baby number 2, and yes, it was another girl, I told him to wait as long as possible because I know she wouldn't like the news. When she found out it was a girl, she started sobbing and screaming. She was calling me a whore and demanded that I get out of her house. "Those girls are not ours. She's a whore, a slut. My son did not make those girls." She looked at me and said, "I let you get away with it the first time. I took you in as family. I allowed my son to believe he fathered that brat, but I will not allow it again." My husband was yelling at his mom, and I got up and took my daughter and I ran to the car sobbing.